Today on episode 96 of Florida Focus, a college football podcast, Brandon disclaims why Florida State football is like Michelangelo's Statue of David. Welcome back to Florida Focus, a college football podcast. My name is Brandon. I'm a lifetime Florida State Seminole fan.
And I am Chris, and I'm a joyous Gator fan, but also kind of confused.
We are putting aside our differences as rivals to bring you the fantastic world of college football throughout the Sunshine State. Well, not so fantastical for us, but for just about everyone else in Florida. So, hat tip to you, Chris. The Gators come out with a huge win at Georgia, so I'll let you get started there, and then we'll kind of whip around the state and cover the Knowles. But let you go right ahead, man. In Jacksonville, the Gators are victorious, huge over Georgia.
Man, this is something that Florida fans have been clamoring for a long time. Beating Georgia, who they have been the top dogs in the SEC East. And you see Dan Mullen taking another step towards where we want to be. Obviously, we want to be national champions. Every school wants that. But first, we just had to get back to going to bowls. Then we're going to New Year's Six bowls. Then now the next step is beat Georgia and essentially, barring anything crazy, winning the East. That was something we just couldn't get over. We checked the other boxes. So, bam, we checked that. And so I guess the next check would be winning the SEC, then playoffs and championship. But we can't do any of that if we don't beat Georgia. And they have been the better team. I think we've been out-coached by them last couple of years. But we finally get a win, finally get a victory, pretty convincingly too. And just ecstatic, as a Gator fan, just seeing, because going into the season, a lot of people picked Florida to win the East. A lot of people picked Florida to win the game. But as the season went on, especially after the A&M loss, I was kind of like, uh-oh, not good. Even I didn't pick them to win the game. Boy, was I wrong, and I'm glad I'm wrong. Because they came out and really put it to Georgia. And obviously the game didn't start the way we wanted to. And, you go down 14. And like I think I told you in the last week's episode, I'm not going to panic if we get down early because I know this team's a little bit different. And so when Georgia comes out, first play of the game, runs it for like a 75-yard touchdown, I didn't panic. I was like, okay. We went 3 and out. I was like, that's a little odd. Then they went down and scored again. Then I'm like, okay, should I start panicking? Should I? I wasn't in full panic mode, but I was like, if our offense can't get going, should I be worried? But then the next drive, we marched down, scored a touchdown. Then we tied it up. Then when we threw that pick six at the beginning of the second quarter, going down 21-14, I didn't panic. I was like, okay. That wasn't anything, crazy that Georgia did or the pressure was too much. A freshman made a mistake at running in a route, led his defender right into the route. I'm like, that's fixable. That's not on Trask. That's not the O-line. So sure enough, we responded. Mm-hmm. And then we just went on, I think we outscored them 24-7 in the second quarter there. And then kind of just held on to the lead. I'm gonna be honest though, I'm thankful that Georgia doesn't have a good quarterback, and we knew going into it a lot of their players were injured, especially on the defense. So we had help. Georgia made some mistakes. I'm very thankful they can't throw a deep ball, because we still had some issues in coverage. But having said that, you saw this with Dan Mullen. Once he gets some of his guys in, once he develops his quarterbacks, once he gets gets time to scheme, he can do some damage, and he really did. Even though Georgia did have their key players out, they're still Georgia. They're still recruiting at a high level. They're still on the top in the East. So to put up 44 points on them is something. And really, you going into it at halftime, you put 38 up. I'm like, are we going to drop 50 on them?
Yeah.
Like, you're really thinking that's very possible. And I think it really was possible to put 50, which is nuts to even talk like that. But That's who we are. That's who our offense is. And we're seeing with this offense, if we just have somewhat of a decent defense, we're going to win games. Just defense show up just a handful of series, we're going to put up the rest. And so that's really cool. If you had a theme on offense, it would be wheel route. Because we utilize the wheel route like it was nobody's business, man. Not just the running backs, but the tight ends hitting the wheel route too. We love that wheel route, and Georgia didn't know what to do. And I don't think we really. I mean, we use the running backs in the passing game from time to time, but nothing like this. And credit to Dan Mullen. He saw this matchup, or he knew going into it we have an advantage here, and we went to it. They kind of schemed a little bit at halftime, shut us down a little bit on the wheel route somewhat, but I think that was like the deciding factor there, especially after Pitts goes out. But our running backs had 212 yards receiving in the game. Trask threw for 474, which is insane. Another game of 4 touchdowns, but 212 were to the running backs. And we see that, okay, we rushed for 97, which is decent, but the fact that our running backs made an impact in many different ways was really the X factor in this game. And also, it's the same route. It was the same route, you just different formations. And then you have a wheel route to the tight end. It goes for a touchdown. A touchdown gets on the tight end wheel route, and Pitts had a nice catch too on his wheel route. But we saw that apparently that they saw in some film that was going to be an advantage for us. We took that advantage and we went with it, and credit Mullen for that. I will say I knew Kyle Trask was good, but I credit it a lot to Dan Mullen and just the way he develops and works with quarterbacks and more of the system. But this game, I mean, I was just sold. Kyle Trask is good. It's not just Dan Mullen. The throws that he was making are some of the best throws that I've ever seen from a Gator quarterback, especially on the wheel routes. And he put it to a place where only the running back can get it. Only to where the running back can get it, and not to where the running back is, but where he's going to be behind the defender. And I was just floored on how accurate he was. The touchdown to Trey Grimes right before the half, he put it to only where Trey Grimes can get it. I believe it was our first drive. Xavier Henderson, he dropped the pass, but Kyle just dropped a dime to where only Henderson. So if Henderson's not going to get it, the defender's not going to get it. And sure enough, he dropped it. But I was just impressed how accurate Kyle Trask was. And I'm just floored. I've seen this guy play for a while now, but every week he does something different where I'm like, oh, man, you're really, really good. And he's slowly climbing up the ranks of Gator quarterbacks, you know. So there's just some good stuff on the offense, so there's plenty more to get to. But on the defensive side, we finally got a interception from a defensive back. We had one interception going into this game, and that was by a defensive end.
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah. And I even said, I was texting Jared, our friend Jared, before. And I said, are we going to get a pick by a DB today? Because we haven't. And we got 3. So I think that is really cool. I mean, it's going to help the defense's confidence for sure. Yep. You're seeing Kyrie Campbell, his effect. And then once we already had the lead, Zachary Carter came in and really applied the pressure there. So I was just really, really, really impressed. And just once we figured out, once we settled down, that second quarter was just a thing of beauty. After that pick 6, we're like, we're still better with a better team, and we're going to show you. We go down and down again and score. And then one last thing for the positives, your boy McPherson hitting 2 50-yard field goals.
Love it.
Yeah. Very impressive. Again, I see him play all the time, but I'm still just, man, this guy is really good. We're really blessed to have a good kicker like that. One last thing. So the wheel route, it reminded me because he just kept going to it, going to it, going to it. It reminded me of, I believe it was 2004, Florida played Georgia, and it wasn't the real route, it was the wide receiver screen. We just hit that play over and over again, where you have a bunch, 3 wide receivers to one side, and you would throw it to one of them, and the other 2 blocked. I remember that game. We must have hit that thing like 10 times, and most of the time it was a positive gain, like first down or something like that. And this kind of reminds me of that. Just this, hey, by the way, we have this play. We're going to hit it over and over again because you can't stop it.
Right.
It's very much NCAA football on the PlayStation. You know,
Oh, yeah.
You ever played someone and you find a route that they just can't cover, so you hit it over and they just get mad and mad and mad?
Yeah.
That was kind of like that play. But credit to our running backs. Malik Davis, great hands. Naquan Wright, great hands. And these are running backs. So yeah, we might not get the push up front all the time and get the yards rushing, but we still have talent in the backfield, and we're going to utilize them. And all the credit in the world goes to Dan Mullen for that.
You know, those are all very good points. And I'll just add a couple of things to that, really. I think it's kind of funny that Georgia's scheme in this game was to limit certain players. Like, you could tell they were trying to limit Pitts and Tony, basically.
Right.
But, you know, that kind of worked. But you see an emergence of a complete team by Florida. We already know the special teams was good. You know, the big plays were there. You just didn't know if those 2 guys are stopped, where do they come from? Well, Trask still has other guys he can feed it to. So, yeah, the running backs came out really big. And 474 yards. That's insane. I mean,
yeah,
he's throwing a lot, which, you know, I don't know, maybe they're throwing more and more. Well, obviously more and more. It was already kind of the goal of the offense. So this guy just need to take some ice baths, you know, ice the shoulder after a game. But brilliant performance out of Florida. And Georgia just terrible on offense. After that opening 75-yard run, 202 yards the rest of the night. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
And 3 interceptions. They couldn't get out of their own way. Yeah. So even switching to Mathis did not help, and they only passed for 112 yards. I mean, that's just, I wouldn't say, sometimes I would say that's just bad offensive performance. No, it was good defense too.
Yeah.
In a way, Georgia was lucky to score as many points as they did.
Yeah, we gave them 7.
Yeah.
We gave them 7.
Take that away,
really,
it's very different.
Right. It's definitely a different game. Yeah, I can't say enough about our offense. And like I said, if our defense gives up 21 points a game, we're winning every game. Like, our offense is good enough to do that easily. Mm-hmm. Can they do that the whole time? Can they stay healthy? All this stuff, I don't know, but they did it for this game. We caught Georgia on a good year. I'm not gonna lie. You know, they don't have Jake Fromm. You know, they don't have all their starting defensive players, but it wasn't even close. It started off kind of shaky there. It wasn't even close. I will say on the opportunities, though, I would have liked to see you finish the game better. You come out the second half, go down, get a field goal, great. But then, I don't know, then you see kind of Trask kind of throw some bad throws. He had a drop by a receiver. And there were situations where I would have liked us to run the ball more. But I think Dan Mullen thinks, well, our best way to run the clock out is throw a short pass here, an out pass here, and let the clock run. But we couldn't do that. We couldn't even complete those. I wish we just ran the ball, but maybe he's thinking we can't really run it effectively enough to run the clock out, so this is what we're going to do. But also I think it's a combination of Georgia. I think they made some adjustments at halftime. You know, thankfully we had a good 17-point lead, 20-point lead at that time. But so I would have liked to finish, but this is the Gators the whole season. Great, decent first quarter, great second quarter, not so well the second half.
Okay.
So you would have liked to see some a better finish for us. Obviously, the bad start, just awful. Like, they're a run team. Their quarterback's not great. They have great running backs. We know what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball, and we let them run for a touchdown. That was kind of frustrating. But Zamir White had 107 yards total, 75 on that one play.
No.
So we did a good job adjusting. credit to Grantham and the defense. They did a good job adjusting, but frustrating at first. And then Tony, like Kadarius Toney, he kind of looked like the Tony of old, where he's trying to do too much. And I don't know if it was the wet field conditions at first, if he was just regressing just a bit, or Georgia's just really good at tackling. I mean, that's very possible. No one tackled Tony like Georgia did last night. So that was a little frustrating to see him dance too much and just get upfield sometimes. But I'm nitpicking because we did so well. I will say that I didn't like. I said I'm glad that Georgia can't throw the deep ball because our safeties still get beat, are still getting burned. Sean Davis, I think, is our best safety. He's probably one of our better tacklers, but in coverage, our safeties just get beat. And at this point, I mean, the second half of the game, why are you even playing the run? Just stay back. But we're still getting beat. They couldn't connect, thankfully. If Pickens is there for Georgia, maybe they catch one. If they have a decent quarterback, maybe they catch one. Game might be a little different too. But so we definitely need to work on our safeties. I think our corners are actually getting better, playing better. Star position, Marco Wilson, playing better. But our safety's still a liability there. So we need to work on that. But overall, very happy, very pleased.
Sure. And I mean, I struggled here. Obviously, you score 44. It's not a whole lot to say there. And you really did stifle their offense. There's a lot more going on Georgia problem-wise than we realized, and I think you guys exposed them pretty bad.
Yeah.
If anything, I would say Florida's tackling. It's kind of been an issue all year. And that's, again, with the adjustments, I think you covered that enough. So maybe the secondary can turn a corner here.
Yeah. Oh, was that a pun there? An intentional pun? I liked it.
Maybe.
Yeah. But good. A good statement win for the Gators. Hopefully we can continue the momentum. And it was just really good to get that monkey off our back and finally be able to beat Georgia.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Any other thoughts?
That is it. Go Gators.
All right. Gators move to 4-1. Clear path to the matchup in Atlanta, so they control their own destiny. Mm-hmm. All right. Man, do I have to recap this game for Pittsburgh?
Yes.
Okay.
We can do a quick hitter if you need to.
Yeah. Florida State comes out and they lose to Pittsburgh 41-17. So I was so bold as to say Florida State would win this game. I also said I don't think Kenny Pickett's going to play, so I was wrong. Even with Kenny Pickett playing, I was like, well, it's still going to be a close game. Surprisingly, early on, it kind of was. FSU take a 14-3 lead. I'll talk about that touchdown in a second. We get a 3-and-out. I was like, hey, cool. We could go down. And actually, there was like on that 3-and-out series, like, did he fumble that? Was that a scoop and score? Not sure. They ended up ruling it incomplete. And so they punt. Yeah. I was like, well, hey, here we go. We could actually take a big lead here at home like we did against UNC. Build upon the momentum. And then we just reverted back to our old ways. Second game this year, Chris, where 3 different quarterbacks threw a pick.
Yeah.
So that's never good. And after it's 14-10, I'm like, okay, this can go bad quickly. I'm going to halftime, you're only down 7. Jordan Travis with an injury. I'm just mixing all the positives, opportunities, everything, just one little lump sum here today. And the whole game just turned disastrous so quickly. Okay. So, okay. Enough. I'll go back to the positives. Jordan Travis sets a school record. Longest rushing touchdown by a quarterback in school history.
Yeah.
88 yards. So that's always good. I threw this out on Twitter. Do you know who number 2 was by chance? A little trivia fact for you.
I want to say Charlie Ward, but
that's a good guess.
But
second was a guy named Devontre Richardson. He was a backup to Christian Ponder. That was a little obscure. I'll admit that. Number 3 longest rushing touchdown by a quarterback, Lee Corso.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Did not know that.
He was a QB / corner back in the 50s. So I actually could not find how long it was, but it was around 50-ish yards. Devontae Richards' touchdown with 55. This one smoked it. I would doubt anyone ever beats it.
Yeah, it's a long one. So, was that guy a true quarterback, or was he playing like a running back playing quarterback?
He had running tendencies.
Okay.
I mean, what was it? Someone told me this week, like Jordan Travis is a slot wide receiver playing quarterback.
Yeah.
Devontae could actually throw it more than Jordan Travis could. So this one, a little different here.
Yeah.
There's besides that touchdown run. I mean, I'm glad for Wyatt Rector. He actually scored the other touchdown. So he has a fun story. He was like a quarterback at like Western Michigan, and he's from Florida, and he transferred back to Florida State under Taggart without a scholarship, and said, "I'll be a walk-on third-string QB." That's how much he wanted to play for the Noles.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get any playing time last year. He stays on the roster and converts to tight end just so he can get some chance at starting or getting on the field. And so they ran out this trick play on the goal line. I was like, wait, that's Wyatt Rector. I haven't called his name all year. So that's kind of a fun story. I was glad for him to get that TD. That pretty much ends there. There's not a whole lot of other positives I can think of or glean from this game.
Yeah, I mean, last week I found a few, but it's really hard to find some.
Yeah,
it's
really tough.
There was a good play call for Rector, and Jordan Travis, fantastic athlete. But we see that he's going to get one of those a game, and that's about it. He's going to have one spectacular run for a touchdown a game, and that's all you got from him. And if you don't capitalize off that or do more with that, you're going to struggle. But
sure.
You want more, but I mean it's real tough to ask him to do much more with that O line, with that defense, with the receivers. But he's good for one of those a game.
Yeah. And our offense is good for 2 really good drives a game. Usually it's going to be the first one of the game or second one, and then sometimes in the second quarter or usually the third quarter coming out of the locker room. So, hey, your offense is going to score you 14. I think that's not been a huge secret. Yeah. And our defense isn't good enough to stop anybody, so it's really bad recipe for winning when you can't score and you can't stop anybody. Right, and we seem to have a mixture of that. Yuck. So
yeah,
Travis left the game at halftime with, they said, undisclosed injury. Just pick one. I think he took a pretty big hit, so I tend to think it was a concussion, but it also could have been a shoulder he re-aggravated, or he's had ankle problems before. Put him on a dartboard somewhere and throw it somewhere, and it probably hurts. What I couldn't believe, and Chris, this is when I just lost it, is, okay, you're going to put in Blackman.
Right.
That is what you're going to go with, and then 2 plays later he throws an interception. I was done. My arms were in the air. I was walking around like, oh man, I cannot believe this. What did I talk about 2 weeks ago? Like the roller coaster of the quarterback room?
Yeah.
So you're going to tell this guy, okay, but supposedly he said later in a press conference, we needed a spark and some experience. Okay, I get that. So then you keep him in after the pick, if that's the case. You don't yank him right away. It's not good for him. And so that's one of the few like blatant coaching decisions. I'm like, that was a bad call.
Right.
Very bad call. We also lost, was it Washington or was it William? I forget. Somebody on the offensive line with injury. Love Taylor is my who, and so without them, the line looks very different.
Yeah.
We'd actually kind of, I'm not gonna say, you got me conscious about the turn the corner comment. We had actually gotten better around the river bend with the offensive line. We kind of righted some wrongs, and the injury is going to set us back to like kind of bad again. I think we're going to lose a lot of progress, and so it looks pretty grim going forward. Chubba Purdy comes in, and he played like a freshman. He missed a lot of offseason with a shoulder injury, whatever offseason you can get out of a 2020 COVID year. But 12 for 21 for 38 yards, and he, of course, threw an interception too. So the biggest thing here, the opportunities, just crazy. Pittsburgh scored 4 touchdowns because they got a short field. We either went for it on 4th down or we turned it over. One drive, he only had to go 20 yards. Another one, 32 yards. One, 41, 47. I'm not against going for it on 4th down. In fact, I think FSU fans are like last year, go for it. And this year, now they're like, oh, this is what happens when you go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get it, you give them a short field and they score on you, especially with your defense. Yikes. So you got to make up your mind. Obviously I think we'd both agree a good balance of those.
Yeah.
And I think maybe one or two of those you could have talked me into, maybe we should punt here. We have decent punter with Master Mono. We can kind of dig them deep. I understand the offense is struggling that much, and you have to kind of figure out a way to keep drives going. I understand that. But so many risks per game, probably not the best recipe.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Like you said, so many injuries on the defensive side. I think Marvin Wilson didn't play. A lot of the corners are injured. One thing that stuck out to me, a stat that stuck out to me, in the last 3 games, FSU's offense has scored 0 points in the second half in the last 3 games. You got a safety against Louisville, but I don't know what is going on in the locker room at halftime, but you got to fix that. The halftime adjustments are not working, and if you just can't put up goose eggs in the second half and expect to win. You just can't. I don't know if it's you get a good half out of Jordan Travis and he gets injured, or they scheme against him and then now what, But you got to fix that. What are your thoughts on going forward with the quarterback? And this is what I would think you would do. I would say just go all out for the future. Start Purdy. And then use Jordan Travis every now and then, roll him in. Kind of what Florida does with Trask and Emory Jones, or your Leak and Tebow, whatever you want to. There's probably some better Florida State analogies out there. But I'll just throw Purdy and get Travis to be that spark. No, you're probably going to lose, but if Purdy is the guy, why not? At this point, why not just start him and rotate in Travis? That way, Travis doesn't get as injured. And he can be that spark more often. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we'd actually kind of alluded to that, you and I, a couple weeks back. We said, well, maybe it was last week. So, hey, we got to figure something out here. And we like to think that Jordan Travis is a solution long term, but we see deep down, no, that's not the case.
Yeah.
And actually, this is kind of what Florida State tried to go to at the end of the season last year when they had Blackman/Travis.
Right.
Travis made his debut against Boston College. They didn't know what to do with him. And he just run, touchdown. All of a sudden, we're like, okay, we're actually bowl eligible, even though we just lost Taggart. So we're like, well, this is cool. Why isn't this guy starting? Because Blackman throws a lot of picks and can't manage pocket presence. But then you realize, well, maybe we're somewhere in between, and then you're back to the old adage, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have any. But that's clearly the case for us, that you don't have any. So you might as well have 2.
Yeah, I'm going to say...
That's kind of the way I look at it.
Right. I agree with that, but with Travis, I don't think you have half of one. You have a good half of football. Quarterback. So you might as well.
Maybe we have 2/3 of a quarterback. How about that?
Yeah, here we go. You could even work it where Purdy is the quarterback and Travis is in the backfield. Really get defenses thinking.
Yeah, I think they've done a couple of funky formations. They haven't done it regularly, but yes, that's a pretty good call. And man, there's, we threw a pick 6. That goes a long way. Their defense just stifled us. Now, Pitt has a really good defensive line, probably one of the best in the country. Definitely the ACC. And so I probably didn't emphasize that enough before. I was like, we would lose the trench battle, which obviously is huge. And that's where what's the old adage? That's where the game is won and lost. And they just kill us. I mean, every quarterback on the roster at FSU has more interceptions than touchdowns on the year. And we've taken like 23 sacks. Most of those are James Blackman. But it just looks really gruesome. So, Renaissance art, Chris. Here we go.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Statue of David. So, Bobby Bowden sculpted this wonderful masterpiece of Florida State football. What was once something formless became a great work of art. 2 national championships, 2 Heisman winners. They've done research now, Chris, and they've looked at this actual statue, which is in Rome, and there are weaknesses at his ankles. So envision the statue in your head, okay? They've done like full layouts and diagnostics on it. The ankles of David actually have shown weakness, and if they don't care for it, preserve it, protect it, the whole statue at the ankles could break off and fall completely forward, which would be sad. This is like, the perfect male form. This is a biblical character, right? A hero. This is the last thing you want. We've seen the weaknesses of Florida State, just like they've found the weaknesses there in the statue. If you're not careful, you don't preserve what you have, everything can come crashing down and be destroyed.
Yeah.
I don't think Florida State's going to let that happen, but we know where the problem is now. We know that the culture is in the midst of a shift, and over the last month, very gradually, Norvell has turned over the roster to more and more freshmen, sophomores, and people that are getting more starting time. I think about a month ago, roughly half of the roster had little playing experience, and we're up to about 75% now.
Okay.
So if you haven't seen a team just kind of under the radar go like, hey, we're going to start a lot of young guys, Florida State's done it without us realizing it. And you know what? Okay, this is what you asked for. This is what you get. Okay. Florida State's 2-5. Looking forward, you got some injuries. Wilson, it is a legit injury. I'm sure he actually has had some decent ones kind of hang around here and there, but Durden and Cooper are playing just as good, if not better, this season. So that to me wasn't a huge of a loss. Travis J had a knee leg injury earlier. He's punt return / secondary. Aside Sante Samuel Jr., he's only one I would really miss.
Okay.
So with the defensive perspective, I think kind of letting some other guys like Emmett Rice and Dix in the linebacker core get some more experience is a good call. But you're just going to have to live with some frustrating moments. This is what comes with it,
Who do you think should get the blame for everything? COVID, Norvell, players, Jimbo, Taggart? Is it a mixed bag? Who gets the most of it? I know I've asked this a couple times, but
sure.
I think you learn more and more as the season goes on. So where do you think we are at now as far as blame goes?
We are at the tail end of being able to blame Jimbo.
Okay.
So very little. There's not many guys that are really kind of left or kind of hung on from that.
Okay. But I think he would be the guy that
it kind of
as
started.
Far as culture,
sure.
As far as the culture goes, I think it's probably his fault, right?
It might have started there. And it does take 4 years of kind of training. I mean, you got to remind yourself, it's only year 3 after he's gone. So it's not 0, but it's still pretty small.
Could you make the case his last year was a year of bad culture?
Oh, I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, after you look back, when he took the A&M job, I was like, he really kind of quit in September.
Right.
So that whole 17 season, we were joking, like after a month, they're like, whew, we're going to make a bowl. And it was a struggle to get there. That was the year we had to add back Louisiana Monroe or something in December just to get there. And they're like, whoa, no, that was the case. In 18, we didn't make it. In 19, we squeaked in. 20, we're not going to. Well, we're under a normal criteria, we wouldn't make one. Right. I think this year everyone is eligible for something crazy. But
you're bowl eligible. I mean, everyone's bowl eligible.
Everyone.
But will you get?
Yep. I think that's about all I had to wrap up this game. Unless you had any extra thoughts.
Yeah, that's a rough one. And that's it. It just stinks.
Yeah. I mean, actually, a couple of numbers here that just stuck out. 14 tackles for loss for Florida State, 7 of which were sacks. And we allow one of the receivers to have 11 catches for 127 yards. So it just, it's all around. Just poor play. So
127, wow.
Yeah, I mean, not only did we do it to ourselves, but, Pitt took advantage. As they should. I mean, they were on a losing streak themselves, and now they can kind of hang their heads a little higher.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a shame losing at home like that.
Yeah, I really thought that. I mean, I missed it too. I thought that they were going to play a lot better at home. But the more and more we are removed from the UNC game, more and more I see how big of a fluke that game was.
Well, you pointed out just a minute ago, like the last three games, Florida State 0 points in offense in the second half. So if you go back to the UNC game, so it's 4 out of the last 5. Even in the UNC game, we didn't score in the second half.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, the last...
Or was that one of them you counted?
Yeah, the last 3 games.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's when it started.
That UNC game feels like a century ago.
Right. For real.
That's why I was... Okay. Gotcha.
But you can say this, though. You can't, no matter what happens the rest of the season, you still have that UNC game.
Sure.
If you played a highlight reel of the season, it might just be that game. But still, you have that game.
Yeah. That was clearly the best game. Our second best game was Notre Dame.
Yeah.
We looked competitive. We forced some turnovers. We had some big plays.
Right.
We looked pretty good. We just allowed too much on defense, which we expected. So, yeah, back-to-back bad performances. Little hope it's going to get any better, but we have to move on.
Yep. All right, so let's move on. Then I'll help you transition.
Awesome,
Let's move on. Miami, NC State. What are your thoughts on this game? The Canes get a back and forth game, where they pulled out at the end, come from behind.
Yep. Biggest takeaway here: NC State can't finish. They had a 10-point lead with 11 minutes left, and they let Miami score back to back, and they gave it away. Miami played really bad out of a bye week.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that they had lost 3 years in a row. I looked like they were going to do it again, but this is a win they needed to have, especially given the stretch they're about to face last month of the season.
Yeah, and we knew that Friday night on the road just always tough, and it was for most of the game for them. But like I said, going into it, too much to Aaron King, 430 in the air plus 5 touchdowns and another 100 on the ground. NC State had no answer for him.
Yep. Historically in the ACC, I looked this up. NC State has given up the 3 biggest performances of offense in conference history.
Goodness.
I mean, like, what did Derek King end up with? 300 passing, 100 rushing, 4 touchdowns?
5.
That's only happened like 3 times ever in the ACC history, and NC State's done it all 3.
Goodness.
Not good for the Wolfpack.
No. All right. So South Florida and Memphis. South Florida just loves to lose, even when they have a lead and play great. They just love to lose.
They gave me hope, man. They kicked a field goal, went up 13 with a little 4 minutes left. I was like, that's it. It's in the bag. And then just let Memphis just come back and just kill their hopes.
Yeah. Goodness. They lose by 1, 33-34. And if you go on ESPN, they only have the win probability. If you want to laugh, just look at that thing.
Oh.
And just see how it just drops like a cliff right at the end. I always find that funny to watch. But
sure.
South Florida, man, you had them. You had them and you let them go.
Crazy. I think the Bulls finally found something to know with Johnson, and so they switched quarterbacks, and what else you can do late in the year. So I have a slightly different hope for them going forward, but it's still going to be tough to get one more win.
And then FAU, Western Kentucky, in a barn burner.
Yep.
In Boca. They win 10-6.
Flexing their, I think there was more scored in baseball games this year than this one.
For real.
What was this scoreless at halftime? I mean, the Owls just couldn't find any answers.
Yeah. Crazy. The first touchdown of the game came with 2.5 minutes left, which proved to be the game winner. It was like a 2000s SEC game, man.
Well, yeah, LSU, Mississippi State, I think it was the year they won 3-2.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. It was an Auburn LSU game was like 6-3.
Yeah.
There was one time, I think it was Auburn LSU, no joke. I was watching it, and the score was like 6-3. And it was like second quarter, and I fell asleep. I woke up in the fourth quarter. The score was still 6-3, and I think that's how the game ended too. So this is reminiscent of that.
Yeah, some of those games are classic defensive battles, like LSU Bama, like the 11th season. This one was not. It's just not a great performance.
No, None whatsoever. But hey, the Owls win, so there you go.
Yeah, win's a win. We'll take it.
Yep.
And that'll wrap up Week 10. We are getting late in the season, Sir Chris. Moving on to Week 11.
Wow. Wow. And so for the Gators, they're halfway through the season. They've played 5, and they got 5 more. 4-1. A win over Georgia, loss in A&M. Look pretty good, look impressive. So now we're on the second half of the season, at least for us. And up next is Arkansas. And definitely an interesting game for many reasons. Obviously, you have a spike in COVID cases among the SEC. 3 games have been postponed so far. This game is in jeopardy because Arkansas's head coach, he has COVID.
Yeah. Plus,
on top of that, there's a tropical storm hanging out, which is probably going to hit Florida, Gainesville area. As of right now, as we're recording, it's probably going to hit, it's projected to hit like Friday. So, I mean, there's been talks of moving the game to Arkansas, postponing it. It's just, assuming this happens, this is going to be a good game, I think. Mainly because the biggest story is Felipe Franks comes back, Arkansas quarterback. Used to play for Florida, got hurt, then enters Trask. And, I mean, I have nothing but love for Felipe Franks. Did he frustrate me at times at Florida? Absolutely. Did he disappoint me sometimes? Absolutely. But, I mean, he came in Florida in a rough time with McElwain. And he stuck it out and took his lumps, helped bridge the gap from McElwain to Mullen. So, again, I have nothing but love and all the credit in the world for him. But, I want to beat him. I want to beat him. But, I am a little worried because Arkansas, I mean, they're definitely the surprise, if not one of the surprises of the SEC. They thought they were going to go winless or maybe one victory.
I did
too. Here they are 3-3.
Yeah.
3-3 already. Yep. They get a great comeback win from against Tennessee, which I thank them because I don't like Tennessee, last week. But, I said I'm so thankful that Georgia doesn't have a quarterback that can throw deep. Well, guess who is a quarterback that can throw deep? Felipe Franks.
That's true. Good point.
That scares me because for all his shortcomings, he had a cannon. I mean, and he was pretty accurate too. He can throw the deep ball. One of our weakest things on defense is defending the deep ball. Watch out for that matchup.
Okay.
He is a good runner, but a reluctant runner. So I think if Florida can get a pick or cause him to fumble or get him rattled early, I think we're good. But if he gets confidence, we better watch out. Now, they have one of the best, if not the best, pass defenses in the SEC. So I do have to worry about that. I think we can run on them enough, and I think that we can get pressure up front against Franks enough. But the deep ball really, really scares me. But how we're going to respond to Georgia, how we're going to respond to the uncertainty of this game, I don't know. You don't want to be too high and just forget about Arkansas, right. Overlook them. I think having Franks at quarterback does help us come back to earth and focus, though. Because, I know how great Franks is. Those guys definitely know how great Franks is. Grantham and Mullen absolutely know what his potential is. So I think it kind of helps us with that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a battle at first. I think it's probably going to be like this. This is how 40 games go. It's going to be neck and neck first quarter. Second quarter, we blow them out, and it gets interesting in the second half.
Okay.
I think that's what's been going on. Now we don't have Kyle Pitts. We do have a lineman that is out, and there's someone else too that was out. But I really think that overall we're just going to be too much. But it's going to be closer than it should be. I'm going to say Gators win 38-28, 10-point victory. Now it might not be a 10-point game most of the game. Maybe they throw, get a late touchdown or two. But Gators by 10, 38-28.
You made some very interesting points about the matchups. So I didn't realize their pass defense was so good for the Razorbacks. So that's a little scary. Felipe Franks in my mind is the new quarterback who dis kind of guy. And yes, I don't know that he's like, hey, I have this game circle. I'm going back to this one. I have no idea what his relationship is like with his former players. I'm sure it's been fine. I'd be surprised if it factors in at all.
For everything I've heard, it's all love between the players and him. So
there you go. He's actually from Crawfordville, so he's from Florida, but not the Gainesville area. So this matches up really interesting. Again, Florida with those West teams, unknown, especially with the circumstances, coming off a huge win. Hopefully, there's no hangover. I don't see a whole lot of reason for there to be concern. All the close games or big victories that I've seen Florida come off of, well, 2 of them are bowl games, so it's a whole season to go over that. But I see no reason to think that the Gators struggle. But there's just an X factor here with the West team. Now, Sam Pittman being out, he has really inspired his guys to play, hasn't he? Man, they should have beat Auburn, which would have been 4-2. That's amazing. Given the talent they had and just how, their SEC game losing streak was just historic. And they are just middle of the road, and they're probably middle of the pack in the whole conference, which just again blows my mind. Is it good enough to beat Florida? No, I don't think so. Now, if you have some really weird plays go your way, the deep ball, that's really interesting. I didn't think about that. If you have some kind of fluky thing, like we're going to move this game Saturday to Friday, or, God forbid it moves to Arkansas, then that changes the whole scope of this game. But I don't know what Vegas is thinking giving Florida, giving 17.5 points. That's a lot. I don't think there's any way the Gators win by more than 10. So I like the 10 there. I'll go 9. Maybe it's like 3 field goals or something. So 37-29, 38-28.
Wait, so 37 what?
37-28. That's by 9,
okay.
Correct?
Okay, yeah. That's what we're going for.
There we go.
I was like, he's just throwing numbers and
yeah.
I'm not a math guy to begin with. So.
Say what?
Yeah, exactly. We have the ball. Okay, yeah. So
we're pretty much around the same area.
Yeah, same thing. I think one more point. Again, I think that we have a potential to blow them out, but and I think it's going to be very much out of hand second half. But I don't know. I just with all this uncertainty. I know what Franks can do. I think it's going to be closer than it should be.
I would look for some wrinkles from UF here. Mullen's good at that, and maybe he knows early. Ooh, crazy. Maybe the first quarter he brings him out instead of the second. I don't know. First quarter, he usually maybe just tries to fills out a team, which is fine. That's smart. Second quarter, low, like, oh, hey, let's have Trask do something he hasn't done before. Or he utilizes guys out of the backfield like he did against Georgia. It's like, hey, we got talent there. Start using them.
Yeah. I will say, though, that another reason why I think it might be, dicey maybe early, because Arkansas likes to eye candy, a lot of motion, a lot of hey, look this way while the running back's running that way. But I think that I think we can they can probably hit us or trick us at first. But I really think that once things settle down, we make adjustments, we'll be fine.
Cool. Got it.
So, real quick, do you know who Arkansas's offensive coordinator is?
I do. Hang on. I can picture his face. Kendall Briles.
Yes, yeah. So that's going to be a little wrinkle to this game, too.
Yeah. What an interesting staff in Arkansas. Man.
Yeah.
I liked Briles. He only got 1 year with us, but Florida State. But he seems to figure things out pretty quickly there, just like he did with us. So kudos. Mm-hmm. All right. Florida State. We have a night game as well. I'm actually kind of surprised. We're on the road at NC State, who just came off of a loss to Miami. Wolfpack favored by 7. I'm going to take the Wolfpack here. I don't see a whole lot of potential coming out of a game like Pittsburgh. FSU, again, with a lot of injuries. Tamarian Terry still isn't 100%. And if he is, we're not getting the ball enough. I tend to believe with the former more of that. Jordan is uncertain here with this game. If you have sort of quarterback, do you go with Purdy, and are you going to start that era right now? Are you going to live with those mistakes? NC State can put up a lot of points. They did against a pretty good Miami defense, and they've beaten teams like Pitt. So I think clearly you can see the Wolfpack are better than the Noles this year. And I'm a little bit concerned that we're going to be able to stop these guys. Bailey Hockman's now the quarterback for NC State, and he scored 41 the other night. And he looked really good for a quarterback who has come in and has been a backup since he transferred from, you guessed it, Florida State 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's actually one of the few guys that I'm like, he really doesn't like Florida State. Most of the time, like Felipe Franks, it's no big deal. I got some offers. I don't want to burn the bridge, but he's never been nice about it. He's never been mean either. I'm not going to say that about it. Right. He's never been a guy that's like, oh yeah, all the best of Florida State. He's just kind of played just off it. I'd rather not talk about it kind of deal.
Right. Okay.
So, given all that, I mean, NC State's pass game has always been pretty good. And as long as they're not throwing to Sante Samuel Jr.'s side of the field, they can probably pretty much do what they want. I think the rushing attack actually has been somewhat decent since giving up so many to Notre Dame. We did hold UNC and force them to pass. And since then, it's been manageable. So I was hoping that some things kind of go our way on the road. We've had our struggles playing NC State. I'm going to take the Wolfpack by 10. I think they cover the 7-point spread. 10? No, actually, take NC State by 13. 30 to 7. Okay. 30 to 13, NC State.
30-13. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't have faith in Florida State anymore. And yeah, NC State's coming off of a 2-game losing streak. They lost to North Carolina on the road and Miami. Good teams. Both teams are ranked. And really, they hung in with Miami. Probably should have won, They should have held that lead at the end. So I think they're going to have confidence seeing that, we can hang with Miami, and Miami, being as a good team as they are. Florida State's not that. I see them having a good having success in the passing game for sure. Florida State's got to figure out what they're going to do with quarterback. And really, at this point, it doesn't matter who's back there, who's blocking for them.
Yeah,
and it's no one right now. So I think NC State's going to pin back their ears. That was a pun because of the Wolfpack. Anyways, and yeah, NC State. I mean, you said 13. I got NC State by 14.
Okay.
34-20.
Okay.
I mean, Jordan Travis. He's going to probably have a great play, get a touchdown, and then what? I think you guys like Webb and Corbin, the running back.
Yeah.
They need to focus on them more. I mean, help Purdy out, help Travis out.
Appreciate it, brother.
They got some decent running backs. Feed them the ball. Maybe I don't know. Try a wheel route.
I was just about to say that.
They have talent in the backfield. I think they should utilize it more, but I think it's going to be too much NC State.
Yeah, and a real quick correction. I said 4 to. I got my numbers mixed up. 30-17 is my score prediction. So NC State wins by 13. So quick correction there. But yes, it seems to be a formula. We need to move the pocket. That's why we haven't been able to do a traditional let's run up the middle kind of attack. So figure out a way to move some guys into space. I really wish we could spare like a tight end like Cam McDonald as an extra blocker, but we simply need him out on the field as a threat, and so we can't really scheme it that way right now. And so 17 points is kind of a ceiling. I thought it used to be like 28. And I mean, we had scored 31 against UNC, and now that looks like an anomaly. I mean, it is. So it is going to be very, very tough. And it's not that they don't have the playmakers or the coaching, which was the opposite of like Will Muschamp's offenses, where you're going to score 17 or 20. Oh, it's just because you just can't score more. No, Florida State can, but they won't.
They choose not to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it could potentially be a rough one for the Noles.
Yep. Very rough. Just moving forward, we're not going to do like a. I mean, we're a little past mid-season in the year, but you never really. 2-5 wouldn't really have surprised any Nole fans. What would have surprised us is that one of the 2 victories would be UNC. But the second half of this year, the last 4 or 5 games, Florida State may only win 1.
I was about to ask you, what is your?
You got to aim and hone in to beat Virginia or Duke your last 2 games.
I think Duke. I think they can. Is it Duke at Duke though?
Yeah, it's at Duke in December, so it's cold. That's my concern there.
That doesn't help.
You do get Virginia at home, but Virginia beat UNC. You know, part of the Wheel of Destiny. There we go again. So, you know, they're decent, but they're still 2-5 like us. So that's pretty even.
Yeah, I think they can beat Duke. The other ones, I don't know. Duke's pretty bad. Duke's pretty bad. But I could see them beating them. Yeah, I don't know about Virginia, NC State, and definitely not Clemson.
Yeah, not gonna happen.
Definitely not that. I think while we're doing that for Florida, we have 5 games left. We should, we're going to be favored in all of them.
Yeah, I take that. Mm-hmm.
I think so. So it's kind of like a mid-season. Where we at? What do we project? But for Florida, though, I will say, preseason I predicted them to go 9-1, losing to just A&M. So far, that's coming true. Mid-season, I kind of switched things up and got panicked, but
oh, bro, hope you didn't jinx yourself there. But
I know, right?
On track so far.
You're right. Yeah,
I had 2 losses, so I'm already off because I had to lose in Georgia.
Right. Well, we should. I mean, we're going to be favored in them, and I think though that like on the road, Tennessee, that can get tricky. First LSU, that can be tricky. I'm
not worried about either of those teams anymore. And you could sub out your second string and beat. You play Vandy, right?
Yeah, we did.
What, does anyone actually play Vandy this year? They're literally one of the worst Power 5 teams I've ever seen.
They're bad.
They are awful.
They're pretty. I would like to see a good Duke Vandy bowl game. Duke Vandy bowl game.
Oh my
Please.
Goodness. Yeah. Anyway, the woes continue for Florida State. Really quickly, Chris, we're gonna whip around the rest of Florida.
Yeah.
We have an all Florida matchup. FAU at FIU. What's your takeaway here? Who do you have winning?
Assuming they play the game, because with FAU and FIU, who knows? But Panthers are winless in the season. Florida Atlantic plays ugly, but they win, so FAU.
I'm taking the upset here. Give me the Panthers.
Okay.
I think they get their first dub. I did not show anything going out of this Western Kentucky win that shows me Florida Atlantic has kept the offense going. Okay. And FIU has at least shown some spark. So give me FIU.
That's a good point. So we'll see. Finally, we'll get a split on something.
It's definitely an upset. I'm going to take there. But another one here. We have South Florida traveling to Houston. These teams have combined for 3 wins on the year, but the Cougars favored by 14. Who you got?
Right. I really, really, really want to go USF. I want to pull a surprise, but on the road, I can't. I just can't. Yeah, I think you had your chance with Memphis, and so winning the Cougs.
I agree. Give me Houston. Houston played really well against all the teams that were tough. They didn't beat any of them, but they played well.
Yeah.
So I agree there. Man, yeah, you're speaking about the SEC got some games. The American, Memphis Navy got pushed out. But another American game that is happening is Temple is traveling to UCF.
Yeah.
The Knights are favored by 24 at home against the Owls.
Speaking of playing your backups and winning by a lot, this is one of those games. UCF.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Knights here as well. Not a surprise. Temple's only win, South Florida by 2.
Okay.
There you go. That tells you what you need to know. They're 1-4.
That's gonna be a really fun War and I-4 later on.
Oh my goodness. Third stringers for the Knights.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't quite go that much, but man. Okay. And then Miami travels to Virginia Tech, a really close one. Probably the closest matchup really we're going to have this weekend. It's 12 noon ESPN2. Virginia Tech actually favored by 2 points in this one after coming off of that devastating Liberty loss. Who do you take in this one here?
Man, I watched the end of that game. Like, I was watching it live, that Liberty game. And did you watch it? Did you see how that ended?
I've never seen a game end like that.
That was nuts. That was just to think you won. And for sabotage. Your own team calls timeout. And then they kick to win the game. That is a heartbreaker.
I mean, like a 52-yarder or something crazy that guy nailed.
Yeah.
But it was after they let them run a play to gain 10 more yards. I mean, great discipline by Liberty. Anyway, they stole victory from the Cutch's defeat, did the Flames.
Goodness. But, I mean, you got a Miami team that they won last week, but I don't know. I'm not convinced. And I was already, before I saw what the spread was and the matchup predictor was and all this stuff, I was leaning Vatek. And just seeing this confirms it. So I'm going to go Vatek on this.
I like it. Not crazy. This for all the jokes I've made about the ACC Coastal, I know there's no divisions this year. This is always the one I look to. And I'm like, man, this is a good historic matchup. These play in the Big East.
All right.
Almost always means something. I'm not trying to joke about this. I'm like, I almost always know who the head coach of these teams are. Versus like the other schools, I'm like, I'm not so sure.
Right.
I've seen enough from Miami to know they can win any type of game.
Right.
They win the defensive struggle with Virginia. Then they win the offensive shootout against NC State. If you want to call it an upset, I don't think you can by definition. I'm going to take Miami here.
Okay.
Yeah. Very close one. I waffled a lot. I really did. But Miami's got to be really careful because the rest of their season shapes up really tough. They're at Virginia Tech, a game they could easily lose. Georgia Tech, playing better but struggling. Wake Forest and North Carolina. So if you slip up, then the rest of these games look very different.
Right.
And you got an outside shot, at the ACC title game. That depends on how. There's a lot of tiebreakers, Chris, and it's like a Bible of laws on who would actually go to the title game because there's a chance that two teams are in second place that haven't played each other.
Okay.
And so now that Clemson's lost, that actually opens the door. That's less likely because Clemson beat Miami.
Okay, gotcha. Had it been Notre Dame, yeah.
Yeah, because Miami doesn't play Notre Dame, so that would have gotten interesting.
Huh. I bet the ACC officials are like, whew.
Yeah, they're like, whew, that was close.
I am so glad. Vatek reminds me so much of Auburn in that they will have a game that you're just like, oh, man, they're a top 10 team, and then the next week just blow it at home or something like that. And then when you think they're the worst team, they'll upset somebody. Historically, that's how they've been, so that's why I'm going to pick them.
Okay.
Because they just lost versus Liberty in a heartbreaker, so everyone should count them out, and that's when they play their best. So
gotcha.
Go Hokies.
Sounds good. And that, I believe, wraps up Week 11 games.
Yeah. Good.
Man, got really exciting. So a couple of reminders to our fans. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/Florida Focus Podcast, FLORIDAFOCUSPODCAST. That is also our website, FloridaFocusPodcast.com. Sorry, I took that away from you, Chris. That's how fans
I was about to say.
Why don't you remind the fans the causes and the way they can give back to the community? How about that?
Sabotage! So I'm just going to... You go ahead. You can go ahead.
You don't mind? Okay.
I just want to yell sabotage, that's all.
we are fully backing the effort to donate to diapers to families in need in Central Florida. And given COVID-19 plus, as Chris mentioned, and he's right, another tropical storm, Eta, bearing down on us, and it's been dumping rain in Orlando all week. It's hard to know exactly for some people where their needs are going to be met. So please donate. We have a pinned tweet on our account. It's an Amazon wish list. Just go on there. Heck, here's an idea. And Chris, I'm not being facetious at all. I'm dead serious about this. Christmas season is coming up. You have a Christmas list of shopping you have to do, right? Mm-hmm. You've got a list, and you got it like a priority, right, from top to bottom.
Right.
So the people at the bottom, they get, the leftover ideas. Instead of actually buying them a present this year, why don't you just write them a card and say, by the way, instead of getting you a traditional gift, on your behalf, I've donated diapers to a family in need. And that's your gift to them.
Yeah. That'd be good. Unless it's a kid, they want the actual presents.
Probably.
Do it to an adult. But as someone who has 2 kids, diapers are expensive. You constantly have to buy them.
Yeah.
This is a great gift.
There you go. So thank you always. You have all these shows you can listen to, and you chose to listen to us, and that means a lot to us. So anything else to say before we wrap up for the night, Chris?
No, the only thing is that I pray selfishly that we actually have football because of all the uncertainties. But that's just me being selfish. But I'm excited. We're halfway through for at least the SEC. I know the ACC is starting to come towards the end of it there. But, hey, let's finish off strong.
Absolutely. We're grateful to have it. I mean, we just didn't know ups and downs, who would play and when. So we're, of course, grateful for any game that we can watch. I completely agree.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Chris. Thank you to the fans that listen. This is Brandon saying Go Noles.
Chris, go Gators.